The wind didn't carry her name the night she died, but it carried everything else. It carried the crack of her bones, the last breath from her lungs, the echo of her scream that shattered the quiet and left me with a silence I'll never forgive. Her name was Kayla. She was my love, my marrow, my beginning and my end. And now she was gone. They told me it was quick, that the snake bit her only once, that she didn't suffer. But they lie in that village. They lie to comfort themselves. Because I saw her die. She reached for me, and I wasn't fast enough. The next day, I buried her beneath the old willow tree. The one she loved, the one that always looked like it was bowing under the weight of its own memories. I dug with my own hands. No shovel. No help. Just bloodied nails and grief like wildfire in my throat. The villagers came with offerings, bread, honey, silver coins, but they didn't look at me. I was hollow to them now. A cursed vessel. They left before sunset. I stayed behind. I laid the old lyre she carved for me beside her. Oak and obsidian. She'd spent months shaping it, tuning it until the strings sang with the sadness of stars. When the last of the dirt was packed over her, I sat beside the grave. I sat until the night came and then until it left. And then the dreams began. It was always the same at first. A hallway of bone-white trees. The moon overhead was pale and too close, like a god peering through the clouds. And Kayla's voice, fragile, wounded, echoed just beyond the trees. I'd wake gasping, clawing at the sheets, searching for her hand. It never came. The third night, her voice changed. She wasn't calling me anymore. She was singing. No words. Just a melody that sounded like morning and memory. A song made of shadows. By the seventh night, I knew it wasn't just a dream. I left the next morning. No goodbyes. No explanations. I packed what little I had and walked east, following the pull inside my chest. It felt like a string had been tied around my ribs and was being tugged from beneath the earth. Every mile took me further from the world and deeper into silence. Until I found it. The Vale of Ash. No one speaks its name out loud. Not in that village. They call it the Forgotten Place or the Mouth of the World. The old mapmakers used to draw beasts over it. But it's real. I crossed the threshold at dusk. The air changed first, heavier, like I was breathing through soaked cloth. The trees there grew backward, their roots tangled in the sky like nerves. The soil was gray and brittle. Even the insects had gone quiet. And in the center of the vale, a fissure. A slit in the earth, wide enough to swallow a house. There was no wind. No sound. But I could hear her again. Not in the air. Not in the trees. Beneath me. Singing. I descended. First thing I noticed was that the earth didn't smell like soil. It smelled like rot. Like burnt feathers and old metal. Like something had died here a long time ago, and kept dying again and again. The descent wasn't a stairway or a trail. It was a wound. The opening in the earth narrowed to a slick vertical shaft, carved smooth by something other than time. Moss and fungus glistened on the walls, giving off a faint, sickly green light, like bruised moonlight underwater. I had no rope, only the whisper in my chest and the lyre slung across my back. So I climbed with my fingers, my toes, and my rage. The walls pulsed with warmth, and as I moved deeper, the rock felt less like stone and more like skin. After a while, I couldn't hear the wind anymore. Or the birds. Or my own heartbeat. Only the music. Soft. Far away. But real. Each note drifted upward from the depths like it had been waiting centuries to reach me. And underneath it, was Kayla's voice. Not words. Just sound. Grieving. Luring. Promising. I don't know how long I climbed. Hours, maybe days. I stopped only when I found a ledge. A crumbling half-arch carved into the shaft wall, like a rib protruding from the throat of a giant. I dropped onto it, legs shaking. My palms bled. My clothes were torn. The lyre still hung against my back like an anchor of memory. Before me, a narrow tunnel stretched into blackness. It breathed, exhaling warm, damp air that smelled of wet stone and forgotten things. I walked. The air grew thicker as I moved forward. Not just heavier, but alive. Each breath felt like I was inhaling memory. The tunnel walls were covered in carvings, long-dead symbols that shimmered faintly when I passed, like they knew I didn't belong. Eyes. Mouths. Spirals. 1,000 hands reaching upward. At first, I thought they were decorative. Aesthetic. But the further I walked, the more they changed. The eyes began to follow me. The mouth started to whisper. One word. Over and over. Return. I tried not to listen. I kept my gaze forward. But the word burrowed into my mind like a splinter. My feet burned. My lungs screamed. And still, I walked. At some point, I stopped noticing the transition. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber. And I understood, finally, that I was no longer beneath the earth. I was inside something else. The chamber stretched wider than any city, taller than any mountain. A dome of darkness, yet faintly aglow, lit by veins of silver light pulsing in the ceiling like arteries. The air was thick with mist and sound, though no source could be seen. Massive pillars rose like bones from the floor, covered in fungus and ash. Between them, shapes moved, tall figures, wrapped in translucent robes, faces covered, their limbs too long, their movements fluid and insect-like. They didn't approach me. They didn't look at me. They only listened. Because I was humming the song. Kayla's song. The melody that had pulled me here now tumbled from my throat like I had always known it. It wasn't mine anymore. It never was. And then, I saw the throne. In the center of the cavern, on an island of black stone surrounded by a moat of still, mirror-like water, it waited. Carved from bone, shadow, and petrified music. Yes, music. I don't know how I knew it, but I did. The throne was sculpted from the remains of sound itself, shaped by grief, sealed with silence. And upon it sat a god. He was taller than the others. Still. Shrouded in robes made of silence. His face veiled, but I could see something beneath it shifting, writhing, like smoke caught inside a coffin. He didn't move. But he was already speaking. You are not the first to crawl here. His voice didn't enter my ears. It entered my blood. It vibrated in my teeth, in my spine, in the marrow of my bones. Your song reaches far. It bleeds across worlds. A cry unanswered, until now. I fell to my knees. I didn't mean to. My body just folded. I clutched the lyre. I forced myself to speak. I came for her. The god tilted his head. Kayla. He said her name like a funeral bell. A sound that pulled every memory of her to the surface, her hands on my face, her smile in the rain, the warmth of her body at night. She sings now, he said. And I listen. I want her back, I whispered. There was a long pause. Then the god stood. And the water around his throne began to boil. Then sing. I stood. Shaking. Starving. Terrified. But I sang. Not with words. Not with skill. I wasn't a bard or a priest or anything noble. But the song inside me was real. I plucked the lyre. I let the melody pour out. I gave the cavern every sorrow I had left, every fragment of love, every scream I never released, every note I remembered from her lullabies. The shadows leaned closer. Kayla stepped into the light as if pulled from a well of memory. Her hair flowed behind her, no longer dark brown but ashen white, curling in waves like smoke underwater. Her skin was translucent, too thin for life, veins like ink drawn on parchment. Her feet didn't touch the ground. She hovered, just slightly, as if the gravity of this world refused to pull her all the way back in. But it was her. And not her. She looked at me like a dream half remembered. Eyes wide. Mouth slightly open. Not in recognition, but in fear. Her gaze flicked to the god on the throne. Then to me. Then back again. "Why, are you here?" she whispered. And the way she said it, it shattered something in me. Not, "I missed you." Not, "Take me back." Not even, "I love you." But, "Why?" As if my presence was a mistake. I stepped forward, shaking. My voice cracked. "Kayla. I came for you. I followed your voice. I heard your song." She flinched at the word, song. And then she said something I'll never forget. "It wasn't for you." Behind her, the god rose from his throne. His face remained veiled, but the space around him bent, like the air itself wanted to look away. The pillars groaned. The water rippled outward. Even the hooded shapes in the dark took a step back. "She sings now," he said. "She belongs to me." My hands tightened on the lyre. "No," I said. "She's not yours. She never was." The god tilted his head. The movement was slow, grinding, like rusted metal scraping across glass. "All things buried belong to me." Kayla's face twisted. Her voice cracked. "He doesn't lie." She turned to me, finally looked at me. "But he doesn't tell the whole truth either." "Then tell me," I begged. "I can leave," she said, voice trembling. "But only if you take me. And only if you never look back." The words rang out in the chamber like a law written into the bones of the world. "You must walk ahead. I must follow behind. If you turn, even once, he takes me back." I nodded. There was no hesitation. Only terror. But it was a fear I would carry. I took a breath. I stepped away from the god. And I walked. The corridor reappeared. The same tunnel I had entered through, now unfolding behind the god's throne like a ribbon of shadow and salt. It sloped upward, slowly, twisting, slick with moss and breath. Each step I took, I heard her behind me. Soft footsteps. The gentle rustle of her dress. My mind raced with questions. Was it really her? Had I pulled her from death? Had I broken a god's hold? Or was this a trick? A test? A game? Don't look. Don't turn. Don't listen too closely. But the voices returned. Not hers. Others. Dozens. Hundreds. Screaming. Singing. Moaning in unison. The tunnel remembered. I kept walking. The further I went, the more the tunnel seemed to resist. The walls began to pulse with wet sound. The ground turned to bone, and every step cracked like a gunshot. Fingers stretched from the walls, slender and white, grasping, begging, reaching for the hem of my cloak, the heel of my foot. Return. Thief. You stole what was buried. You cannot unsing death. I ignored them. Until the footsteps behind me stopped. Silence. I froze. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. And then I whispered, "Kayla." No answer. I took a single step. Still no sound. My stomach turned. My heart convulsed. She's still there. She's still there. She has to be. But the silence was too perfect. As if something had sealed off the space behind me entirely. And then I heard her voice. It wasn't a whisper this time. It was a sob. "Please, don't leave me." My knees buckled. The tone. The pain. It was her. There was no doubt. But something in the way she said it, it was too perfect. Too practiced. Like a line spoken 1,000 times by a mouth that didn't know what it meant. "Don't look," I whispered to myself. "Don't look." But then came the second voice. Just like hers. Identical. Only, louder. "Please, don't leave me." And then a third. "Please, don't leave me. Please. Please." The tunnel filled with her voice. Hundreds of hers. All around me. All saying the same thing. Mocking me. I snapped. I turned. What I saw wasn't Kayla. It was a corridor full of her. Hundreds of her. Layered like reflections in shattered mirrors. Some wept. Some screamed. Some had no eyes. Some had too many. Some were still alive. Others were rotted, crawling. All were singing. And at the center of them all, was her. The real Kayla. Frozen. Eyes wide. Mouth silent. Her body already halfway returned to shadow. She reached for me. But it was too late. The walls screamed. The tunnel collapsed. And the last thing I heard was the god's voice, thundering from the dark. "You looked. You looked." The words split the world open. The tunnel collapsed around me, not with falling stone, but with memory. The walls melted. The moss became ash. The earth above turned to shadow and folded inward like a dying eye. And I was falling. Not downward. Inward. The god's voice wrapped around me like a burial cloth. "You sang her out of death. You plucked her from a place she had grown to fit. And now, you must wear her absence." I woke in a place that was not a place. A stage. A floating island of cracked glass suspended in a sea of stars, framed by silhouettes of forgotten instruments, harps without strings, drums that bled, horns twisted like broken spines. The sky spun overhead, too fast, too alive, and from its center dangled a shape like a marionette. A puppet made of Kayla's bones, her voice box hanging from a thread of gold. I screamed. But no sound came out. The god stepped onto the stage. His face was still veiled, but now the veil flickered, changing with every word he spoke. One moment, it looked like Kayla's face. The next, mine. The next, someone I didn't recognize but felt, a mother, maybe. A god. A memory. "You looked," he said again. "So now you will sing her song. Forever." I tried to run. But the glass beneath me cracked with every step. And below it was not darkness, but her. Kayla. Endless copies of her, trapped beneath the surface, banging their fists, mouthing screams, eternally caught in that last moment before she turned to dust. "She was never yours to rescue," the god said. "You remembered her. And that remembrance built her again. But only from you. Not from truth." "What do you mean?" I gasped. "You resurrected a reflection. A memory shaped into flesh. Not Kayla. But a ghost of grief." I fell to my knees. The lyre was still in my hands. But it looked different. Warped. The strings now made of sinew. The body stitched together from my own ribs. And when I touched it, I heard my voice. Not singing. Begging. Over and over. Please, don't leave me. The same line she said to me in the tunnel. The same one that all the copies whispered. It wasn't a memory. It was me. I had sung it into her. The god moved closer. His arms extended, and from his robes poured a tide of instruments, flutes that bled fire, violins strung with hair, pianos with keys made of teeth. You wanted to cheat me, he whispered. You thought love could unlock the gates of death. He reached down and touched the lyre. And in that moment, I saw him. The veil burned away. Beneath it was no face. No form. Just a mouth. A gaping, soundless void, ringed with fingers, weeping smoke. It stretched wider with every note I had ever played. It fed on sound. On sorrow. On songs. He was not the god of death. He was the god of broken songs. Every grief ever turned into music. Every lullaby hummed through tears. Every scream caught in a throat. He devoured them. Composed with them. Bound the souls who sang them. And I had offered him a masterpiece. Kayla wasn't his prisoner. She was his instrument. I stood up. Blood dripping from my mouth. My fingers torn. I looked down at the lyre, still pulsing, still warm. And I knew what I had to do. You feed on sound, I said. Then choke on silence. I raised the lyre. And I snapped it. Right down the middle. The sound it made wasn't loud. It was final. Like the last word in the last book ever written. The world shuddered. The glass stage exploded beneath me. The sea of stars folded into a single thread. And the god screamed. Not in sound. But in absence. A wound appeared in the center of him. A hole where sound should be. A death where death lives. He fell backward, clutching at the silence like it was fire, disintegrating into motes of rust and ash. And Kayla. The real Kayla. She stepped from behind him. Whole. Alive. But not smiling. We didn't speak. We just looked at each other. She touched my face. I took her hand. And we walked. The god listened. And the chamber began to tremble. From the dark behind the throne, a figure emerged. Thin. Pale. Wrapped in a dress of moth wings and dust. Kayla. We walked in silence. No tunnel. No sky. Just steps unfolding beneath us with every breath. Each one forward pulled the world into shape again, trees, mist, the hush of early morning. We emerged from beneath the earth just before dawn, into a field of stone where no wind moved and no birds sang. I turned to her. She stood in the light. Real. Present. But she didn't cast a shadow. Kayla looked at me like someone watching their own reflection float away. This body, she said softly. It's made of your remembering. Your grief shaped me. That God couldn't steal what wasn't first given. I nodded, the weight sinking in. I wanted to bring you back, I said. I would have burned the world. And you did, she whispered. She looked down at her hands. They flickered, not like fire, but like thought fading. Every second here is borrowed. You didn't pull me out, you rewrote me. Unburied me with sound. But songs always end. The horizon began to unravel. Color left the sky. Birds in the trees blinked out like candle flames. And Kayla, my Kayla, smiled, not with sorrow, but with release. Let me go before the silence takes you too. I held her hand one last time. It was warm. Then she stepped backward. And vanished. Not like a ghost. But like a memory finally honored. I stood there for a long while. The lyre was gone. The god was dead, or maybe only dreaming again, deeper. And I was alive. But hollowed. Now, every time I pick up an instrument, it stings. The strings cut my fingers. The chords pull at something beneath my ribs. I don't play to sing anymore. I play to remember. And to forget. People ask where my music comes from. They say it sounds like mourning. Like something ancient trying to come home. I tell them it's just a song. But I know the truth. It's an echo. A ripple from the day I looked back. And what I brought with me was never meant to leave.